What's the secret to becoming fluent? I don't know. I don't know. I wish I did. If I did, I would probably be a millionaire, but unfortunately I don't. Often, this time of year, at the beginning of a new academic year, students ask me, what do I do to become fluent? What do I need to study? How can I become more fluent? And unfortunately, there's no single answer. I mean, before we talk about what we need to do to become more fluent, I think it's really important we understand what being fluent actually means. Now, this is the dictionary definition. To be able to express oneself easily and articulately. And it's here I want to start by talking about a couple of myths that surround what people believe being fluent actually means. I often hear people saying to become really fluent in a language, your grammatical knowledge and your use of grammar needs to be perfect. Does it? I mean, do you speak grammatically correct all the time in your native language? Do I speak grammatically correct in English all the time? I think the answer is probably no. So, does that mean we're not fluent in our own language? I mean, I know lots of Italians whose English is fantastic. Occasionally they make a small grammatical mistake, but does that mean they're not fluent as well? I don't think so. Something linked to grammar is obviously vocabulary. And I think this is another really important point to stress when we're talking about fluency. Lots of people think you need to know all the words there are to really class yourself as being fluent. Well, I'll be honest now. If that is the case, I'm not fluent in English. And I don't think you'll be fluent in your native language. I mean, is it really possible to know every single word? I mean, imagine this. Imagine me being in a meeting of scientists talking about, rocket science or neuroscience or something. Would I be able to express my opinions using the correct vocabulary? I don't think so. So does that mean I'm not fluent in English? I think it's really important we look back at the actual definition of being fluent. And it's that word express. To express oneself easily and articulately. Now, articulately, obviously, that means using the correct words and the correct grammar, but it doesn't talk about being perfect. And I think that's really, really important. Now, in this only English lesson, I'm not going to be talking about techniques, practical techniques to become fluent, because we still really don't know what being fluent is exactly. But I think we all know things that we need to do to improve our abilities. For example, being passionate about a language really helps. If you have that want to learn, then that's a really, really big step forward. Or even, if you don't have passion, maybe the necessity to learn a language. Maybe you need the language for your job or to move country. I mean, necessity can be just as powerful as passion when needing to learn a language. Then we've got other things we can do. We all know, listen as much as we can to the language we're learning. Read as much as we can. Practice as much as we can. Surround ourselves in that language as much as we can. So I'm not going to talk about those specific techniques. I'm going to focus on something a lot more general, but equally as important. And that's your mindset. That's how you think. You need to be prepared mentally to be able to learn properly. And that's what I'm going to try and help you with today. One of the biggest problems I see, especially with adult learners, is their quest for perfection. And often we are the ones who hold ourselves back from becoming fluent. Because we want to be perfect all the time, we almost think, no, I'm not going to speak unless I know it perfectly. And of course, if you're not speaking, you're not communicating, you're not practicing, how can you become fluent? So, I've got 3 tips, if you like. Maybe it's not the correct term for what I'm going to tell you, but 3 pieces of advice of what you can do to help yourself to become more fluent. And these are all things to do with changing our mindset about how we learn a language. To explain the first one, I want to talk about how children and adults learn. I've taught both children and adults for many, many years, and there's one distinct difference that I can see when children learn and when adults learn. When adults learn, the biggest problem we have is we want to know why. Why is it like this? Because in my language it's like this. Why? Why? And this questioning all the time isn't good when we're wanting to learn a language. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't ask questions, because asking questions is one of the most important things when learning a language. But we shouldn't question the answer. Now, what I mean by that, if we ask a question and the teacher responds to us, we often need to accept that answer and move forward, because that's exactly what children do. They accept the answers they're given and they're able to rapidly move forward. Whereas as adults, because we always want to know exactly why, it holds us back because we don't accept the answer. When I first came to Italy, still after a few months, I would be asking my wife, but why is it like this? In English, we speak like this. Why in Italian like this? And she would very patiently explain, etc. Until one day I asked another question and she said, well, perché sì? Because it is in Italian. Because sometimes we need to accept the answer. And the more I thought about that, the more I agreed with it. Because my opinion on it doesn't change. That is it. That is how the language is. And if we can accept it and accept that it's different to our own language, we'll be in a much better place to be able to move forward and learn that language. I mean, you can ask some of my students when I do my online courses now. I often say to them in the first couple of lessons, if you ask me a question and I say, because it is, perché sì, it's not that I don't want to explain, it's not that I can't explain, it's just sometimes we just need to accept it and move on, because it makes the whole process a lot easier. I encourage questions. However, sometimes, like I said, as adults, we need to stop questioning the answer and move on. Now, this brings me on to the second tip that I'd like to share with you. And again, it's the difference between children and adults. When children speak, they don't worry about making a mistake, generally. They just speak. If they make a mistake, doesn't matter. They learn, they move on. Whereas as adults, we feel that we almost have something to prove to ourselves, to the rest of the class, or to our teacher, that we should know this. We're adults. We should be able to learn and understand perfectly. No, that's not the right attitude to have. Have a go. Speak. If you make a mistake, it doesn't matter. But again, it's easy for me to say. I know it is easy for me to say. And it's much more difficult to do. But again, that all comes back down, not to learning technique, but learning mentality. So it's really, really important that we try to overcome this in an environment that you feel comfortable in. So it's really important to find the right teacher for you, to find the right class for you, and then you'll be able to overcome this and learn a lot quicker. So stop searching for perfection. To be fluent in the language, you don't need to be perfect. It's not written anywhere, to be fluent, you must be perfect. It's not like that, okay? It's all about the ease of communication and expressing yourself. And to be fluent, like we've seen, you don't need to be perfect. Now, the final thing I would like to say, the third really important point, especially at this time of year before a new academic year, is we need to enjoy the process of learning a language. Now, by that I mean, we all have a reason for learning. It might be to go travelling. It might be for work. It might be for an exam. It might just be for ourselves. But that's the outcome. We need to look at the process and enjoy the process. We need to stop putting time limits on things. And we need to focus on what we can do. Often I see people, I've been studying for 6 months and I still can't do this. No problem. If you continue, you will be able to do it. You just need patience. Like children. Some children walk before others. Some children talk before others. But the others always walk and talk. And it's the same with a language. You will be able to do it if you have the patience. We really need to stop looking for shortcuts. That's why I get so almost angry when I see on Facebook or YouTube or something, when learn English in 30 days, improve your vocabulary in 2 hours. No, we need to stop this way of thinking and enjoy the process of learning a language, which never ends. I'm still learning English. You're still learning your native language. So when we want to learn another language, why do we put different pressures on ourselves? So stop with the learn quick mentality. Enjoy the process and have patience, and you will arrive. So obviously, this is just my opinion. Now, I'd love to hear what you think. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I really would love to hear from you. So let me know what you think being fluent is. Let me know how you think we can become fluent. Let me know if you believe you are fluent, what techniques you've used to do it. Because the more we talk about it, the easier it is to help us when learning. So thank you very much for listening and for watching this video. I'll see you next time.